right?
Don't ask that.
So what cells are actually getting stained that bright red? And what zone of the gland is that? What gland is it? It's the pituitary.
That's your anterior
that's
hypothesis.
anterior, that's posterior. And if I ask you what hormone is, name a hormone made by cells stained bright red, you would say
Pituitary, so
GH.
GH.
growth hormone, yeah.
Somatotrope 60%.
Or what's that?
60%
Roughly, yeah.
somatotropes.
Growth hormone or prolactin are both.
Prolactin.
Somatotropes, mammotropes, or somatomammotropes if there are any in the pituitary. And then, of course, the basophils are the gonadotropins or thyroid hormone, and ACTH is made by chromophobes. Those would be high power slides. So now we don't have, if there's going to be, I guess, it's 23 of you, so I may just have 24 stations. I'm not sure how many I'm going to have.
With 2 questions on each?
I usually ask 3.
3? So 72.
So you're going to see, a lot of these slides you will see more than once. So for example, you can count on seeing this a low power slide, which has the whole, view of it. Then, and if I asked you to name this, you would say, well, that's the posterior pituitary or the neural hypophysis. And if I asked you to name a hormone secreted from there, you would say
arginine, vasopressin.
Vasopressin or ABP or ADH, oxytocin. And if I ask you then what cell type secretes it,
As a paraventricular neuron?
Magnocellular neurons.
Magnocellular from the paraventricular figure.
You could just say in the hypothalamus.
Axonal transport, right?
So anyway, that's...
Stimulates it or
But then if we get into a high-powered look, I try to give you as much context as possible, just like when you draw them. So, it would be like, something like this, where you can actually see some context for not just all anterior, but again, it's the stain that gives it away. You see this kind of stain, you know that these are acidophils, and they make growth hormone of prolactin. Basophils make gonadotropins, or TSH, and ACTH is made by chromophobes. So, for example, here's a chromophobe, right? Here's a chromophobe. The cytoplasm is not stained. Here's a chromophobe. Here's a chromophobe. And if the cytoplasm is roughly stained, this sort of light purplish color, those are basophils. Here's a basophil. Usually what I do is I make up the questions in advance, but then that's really just making up half the question, because the other half of the question is when I ask you, let's say, for what the cell type is and what it makes and what it's a target for, what am I pointing to? So the answers will depend on what the pointer is pointing at. So what I do usually is I put these in the in the microscope and see what kind of jumps out at me as kind of a very clear example. You're always going to find in these slides, as you know by now, there's always going to be some anomalies you find. A cell that you can't quite tell what it is, or a structure you can't quite tell what it is. Obviously, we're looking for things that are very clear, all right, to test your correspondence between the cell type and the hormone that it makes, or the hormone that it responds to, or the prohormone that it converts into something else. All of those things. So anyway, that's what you have. You can expect like a low power view, at least one low power view, and at least one high power view of the pituitary hypothalamus slide. All right. Let's see.
That's 6 questions.